think we're good to go now, and this is
Live
a
another
special
time.
special class in a number of ways. First of all, I've hardly ever missed a class in 25 years, and I did miss last week. And my son did graduate from high school, and so I'm sorry to have missed it.
Your son,
Grandson.
grandson. Oh, wow. I was gonna say, that's pretty
I
good.
only heard it was an excellent session, but I also saw the video of it, and I'm sorry to have missed it. Second thing is that over the years, we've had many speakers come back more than once. Today is the first time we ever had a speaker come back more than once in 1 year. Narain is back with us again to do India this time. And the third thing is that we've never been let down by the Dartmouth system before for the video. So I think we're okay now. We can see the folks on Zoom there. And Narain, you're all set to go?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming back.
It's very kind of you. I'm pleased to be here. I feel very energetic and to see you again. So, talking with brilliant people like you inspires me. I'm going to talk about something extraordinary. 1962. Some of you recall what was happening. There was a handsome man in the White House. Yes. And he had won a major diplomatic victory against the Soviet Union. The whole world was in some kind of terror. They thought it will be kind of nuclear war. The Soviet Union had installed nuclear missiles in Cuba. And Nikita Khrushchev, who was the Secretary General of Communist Party in Soviet Union, he used to say, "We will destroy you."
Yeah, you can just anytime.
And Mao Zedong in China used to say, USA is a paper tiger. But then Khrushchev realized this paper tiger has nuclear teeth. One has to be very careful. After a long negotiation, the two sides agreed, and the Soviet Union agreed to dismantle the missile. Peace was restored. The reason I'm talking about this is that at that time, when JFK was the president, he had a very capable ambassador in India, John Galbraith. He was from Harvard University. And Indians loved both Kennedy and Galbraith. But then suddenly, John F. Kennedy received an urgent message from his ambassador and also an Indian ambassador in the USA, asking for massive military help, aeroplanes, aircraft, soldiers, American soldiers, everything. Send us ammunition. What happened? What happened was when Russia and Soviet Union and America were engaged in negotiation, the whole world attention was diverted to Cuba. At that time, Mao Zedong was the communist boss at that time in China. He was the absolute leader. So he took this opportunity and sent his troops down the Himalayas into two sides of India, that is east and west. And these people, soldiers, came wave after wave, wave after wave. Negotiations were earlier going on between India and China about the border dispute. But then this was sudden and Indians were taken aback and they had no way to resist or fight Chinese. So John F. Kennedy understood the situation. He asked his carrier from the 7th Fleet to move to Bay of Bengal. And he rushed, supplies, military supplies, whatever India asked. But when Mao Zedong and China understood that this is going to be serious, they suddenly withdrew from India. And peace was restored. I'm talking about this because India at that time was a non-aligned country. There were two camps, as you know, I'm sure you recall your history. that is the Soviet Union, China on one side, and many other countries. And of course, USA, the West together. It was what we call Cold War. And both insisted, at least USA insisted, that you must join one bloc or the other. India said, no, we are non-aligned. They defined non-alignment as a kind of policy which is friendly with both the countries, both the sides. And this is what to maintain. Not only that, Nehru, who was the prime minister, organized newly independent countries into this massive group, long, big group, non-aligned group. At the UN and other assemblies, they would argue in the favor of their own group, newly independent country. The reason I'm talking about this, that although India at that time was non-aligned, it took help from both the countries, both the sides, the Soviet Union and as well as the USA and the West. But of course, after that, something else you have to keep in mind. In 1962, there was a split between the Soviet Union and China. And although the Soviet Union didn't support openly India at that time, but privately they had a big argument. It's wrong. Anyway, since then, India and China has been at some kind of a loggerhead, fighting here and there. But slowly things improve. Once things will improve, then again, a relation will get in trouble. There are two huge countries, massive border, the Himalayas. The trouble started with Tibet. Tibet, historically speaking, has been autonomous. And when the Communist Party in China won victory, the first thing they did was to invade Tibet, occupy it. At that time, Dalai Lama was 17-year-old spiritual head of the Tibetan people, spiritual as well as temporal. And he agreed to China's suzerainty over the lordship. But within a few years, in 1959, there was a revolt in Tibet, which was crushed by Chinese forces. And then Dalai Lama, along with his followers, escaped Tibet and came to India. And from that time on, Tibetan people started coming to India. But when Dalai Lama came to India, the government of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, received him as a head of the state, not as a refugee, not as an asylum seeker, and gave the community a special place to live. That is a town called Dharamshala in northern India. And if you happen to go to northern India, Dharamshala, there's a town called McLeod-Ganj. It's all Tibetan town. In the course of time, about 150,000 Tibetan moved to India. And then they dispersed to Bhutan and Nepal, other countries. But interesting thing is, Dalai Lama, instead of becoming a monk, instead of becoming a secluded person, staying in the Himalayan place, at the town, Dharamshala, he started going out to the world. He became a global spiritual leader and revived the idea of Tibet as a separate cultural civilization. And he did not talk against China. He talked about love and peace, living together. And today, he's highly regarded. So Tibet is alive. So Tibet is divided in two parts. The physical part is with China, but spiritual part is in India. They're independent. They don't receive any funds from the government of India. They receive funds from international community, all of USA, European countries. They're very fond of him. So that tension is there. Tibet is not going away. So the Chinese Communist Party moved their troops to the southern border, Himalayan border, and they'll go on fighting. So this is how I'm going to talk to you about the conflict between the two. But two countries are very big, the economies are very big. They share so much. Originally, if you look into thousands of years ago, India and China were culturally very close. After all, Buddhism, went from India, Central Asia, to China, from China to Korea, Japan. Right? So they have been, in the past, they had very close cultural, intellectual relations. Chinese scholars, professors used to come to India, teach there. Indians used to go there. But that was long ago. So today, the situation is this. Although there's a peace between the two countries, but sometimes there's an occasional fight. Chinese follow a policy of what you call gray zone. Gray zone is a political term in which a country moves between peace and war. Neither peace nor war. They use other means. Cyber attacks, subterfuge, and sabotage, disinformation, misinformation, proxies. Example of proxy I want to give you. Take the case of North Korea. China helped North Korea to build its nuclear weapon. And when the Western countries, especially USA, got worried about it, so who do they talk? They couldn't talk to North Korea. So they had to go through China. And China used this relationship to get concession from America in terms of intellectual property, trade deals and all that. Although this is the meaning of gray zone. Use other people. Don't fight yourself. Still China does it. So we have to talk about this because the title is India, China, US, West, and the South. So China is playing a very big role internationally. The USA and the West opened their door to China, economically, physically, everywhere. China took advantage and grew and grew. And now they are America's competitors. America raised China by all accounts. But then they used their resources to, dominate Southeast Asia, and the rest of the world. And the contest between the West over Taiwan is a serious problem. So I have been jumping around, but I just want to talk because it's a very important point where we came from, where we are going. The non-alignment policy, the basis, the foundation was, it should be possible for a country to be friendly with both sides. And India did for a long time. India took aid from the Soviet Union as well as America and the West. They built steel plants, they built other institutions, to help themselves. It was working very well. But China didn't like it. They wanted the Soviet Union to go out and fight, eliminate capitalism altogether in those days. It's difficult to clearly describe to you the feeling in 1962, and you were there, many of you probably 1962. And so the point I'm making is there's nothing like good and bad relations. It's always between them. See, India cannot do without China. China is there. And China cannot do without India is there. India is now part of many organizations. Although India is not an ally of the West, but if you look into their relationship, US-India relationship and the West, you'll find they are very, very close. Allies without alliances, something very strange. So let me go over systematically. So, of course, the Soviet Union collapsed and began to collapse in 1989. By 1991, Soviet Union disappeared. Not Russia, but the Soviet Union. I don't know what you think about the Russian people. In India, Russians are admired. They admire their literature, they admire their science, technology, music. Somehow, Americans have been always somewhat hostile to Russia. But Russian civilization is not an ordinary civilization. Look at their literature, their music, their dance, their thinkers. So this view is not held in the USA. It's held in mostly, even today, Indians admire Russian. So anyway, so what happened now is as India began to grow, China began to grow slowly and gradually. Today, India is the fourth largest economy in the world. It has the highest population in the world. So neither China nor any other country can ignore India. But India doesn't want to get into conflict with other countries. If they do, then their economy goes down. At present, the uppermost thing in the minds of Indian politicians, people, is to grow economically. It's a huge population. 1.4 billion people. Just imagine. To keep 4 billion people together in a democratic framework. India is a democracy, not a great democracy, but it's a democracy. For the last 75 to 78 years, India has been holding election. There's a diversity of population. There are 36 states. Not all states are controlled by one party. But still, it's not as great a democracy as Sweden. I'm not talking about USA today. But we have to keep this in mind. Freedom is not a constant. Freedom is variable. Democracy is variable. Sometimes Americans are more democratic, they feel freer than other times. After 9/11, Americans' mind shrank. They began to fear the world. Freedom shrank. So when Americans feel freer, freedom is more, otherwise less. If you look at the history of USA, anyway. So we should keep in mind, India is not a perfect democracy. It is still a functioning democracy. Along with freedom, it has been growing at the rate of 6 to 7%. It has relations with many, many nations. The slogan they have, which is translation of a Sanskrit saying, the world is one family. The world is one family. The whole world is one family. And they believe in it. It's difficult to practice it. So today, for example, again, the idea of independence, they call it strategic autonomy. Don't isolate yourself, but be free. Free to talk to people, free to communicate, free to have relations. By the way, some of you have a different view of Donald Trump. But he was the first American president who ever thought of meeting with the North Korean dictator. He was the first one to talk to Putin. We don't agree with him, but sometimes you feel his unorthodox behavior opens door. Now he has not been successful with Russia and Ukraine, But the very effort, the very idea, you can talk to your enemies. You don't know what time a door might open. That was the philosophy of Indian politicians at that time. Keep the doors open. Even today, they say, who knows in the future, India and China might become friends. They might reconnect. You don't know. If you look at the history of the world, look at Vietnam and USA. They are friends now. They trade, right? What happened to the hatred, animosity? So that is a function of this openness, strategic openness. Keep the door open. Control it. So this is what India has been doing with China. For example, India is part of an organization called BRICS. BRICS is acronym for Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South Africa. So they have it's a grouping which has its own bank also. They have started bank. They give loan to our countries, and they meet occasionally. They talk and communicate and discuss common things like atmosphere, climate, other common things. And in the UN, they get together to persuade, to pressure Western rich countries. And they also, there's another group called Shanghai Group, in which Central Asian countries and Russia and India, they meet together to discuss their affairs. So once they go on talking, the possibilities of conflict decrease, or they can negotiate. India has always believed from the very beginning that negotiation should be able to solve most of our problems. War is very expensive. Nowadays, wars don't end. Look at Gaza war. When will it end? Or Ukraine-Russia war. And if the war over Taiwan starts, how would it end? So the best diplomacy is the best way if it can be pursued and used systematically. As I mentioned to you, John F. Kennedy, he was a great diplomat, great negotiator. He was a very charming man, as you know. So not that he was afraid of fighting. After all, a year before, 1961, there was a misadventure. Some of you remember, called the Bay of Pigs. CIA, along with Cuban refugees, had invaded Cuba. But anyway, so America is not afraid of fighting after the Second World War. Without USA, Second World War wouldn't have been won. Some of you know. But still, it is a balancing act. Still. So, I want to talk about China still because there's a good trade relation, high trade relations between China and India. Last year, India and China, they had a trade of $127 billion, mostly in favor of China. But when two countries go on trading with each other, when the money flows into each other's pockets, when trade creates jobs, then it is possible to negotiate about other things also. This is the philosophy. Again, I'm not very fond of Trump. But he thinks that trade can help to bring people together. I forgot to mention, I should mention, this year on 22nd of April, this year, terrorists from Pakistan attacked India and 26 Indians were killed. And Indians retaliated on May the 7th. They bombed several cities in Pakistan. And of course, Pakistan retaliated. But after 4 days, they stopped. How did they stop? According to reports, some of the countries who are friendly with both Pakistan and India, they intervened. Countries included UAE, United Arab Republic, and then Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and surprisingly, Iran. Iran is friendly with both the countries. And then, of course, USA. Now, this may not be true, but according to reports, Trump told both India and Pakistan, look, stop fighting. Let's do trade. He said, I can't do trade with you unless you stop fighting. This may be not true, but the attitude is there. Right? Trade can help people to, well, reduce their tension. After all, profit motive. It's not only profit motive, but also sharing of technology, goods and services. We should keep this in mind. I don't agree with Trump all the time, especially what he's doing to Harvard University and other places. But some of his ideas that go and talk to people, which is a good thing. So USA, of course, now is open. Yes.
But you've not mentioned the religious thing. I mean, India and Pakistan, I mean, they go to war basically on religious points.
Well, this is what they say. Actually, there are 200 million Muslims in India. Right? India has a huge population. And so they use religion as an excuse. They use, otherwise, if I go to Pakistan, nobody will know I'm Indian. I look like that. My language, I share languages with them, plural. When Pakistani go to India, it's difficult to say who are these guys. So it is possible. It's possible in the future they might come together. What is keeping them today apart is surprisingly is the interests of China. China has initiated a program card, international program card, BRI, that is a road initiative. They are building roads everywhere, ports and roads. It is called Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. So they are building this. China's interest that Pakistan should keep away from India. It's not their interest. Yeah. Because if they do, then there is a port which China is building in Pakistan called Gwadar Port on the western coast. And they want to use that port as a roadwork from their own Xinjiang province, in the northern part of China. They want to build road there and they want to build a naval base there. That's planned. So international relations are very complicated, but I said they might change. If India and Pakistan begin to trade, hostilities will come down. I am a great believer in trade and international relations. Trade does help. Although this is not the place to talk about Trump's, tariff, etc. But what he is doing, he is disturbing the whole world, asking, let's do trade in a different way. So there's more balance. He also believes that if some job is created in USA, it will help the middle class and all that. It's a long topic we can discuss some other time. But as you know, on the whole, if you look at the history of USA, Americans have always believed in open trade. It is now that restrictions are being placed. Anyway. Well, you see, the question you ask is very tough. In Pakistan, if you go there, it is very few people who believe that religion is a problem. Otherwise, in normal time, Pakistani Indians meet each other, they trade with each other. They should do more. They should do more. Barriers are not religious, it's political. Because the army there controls the country. And the army believe that the only way they can control Pakistan is to keep the two countries away. That they see your enemy. As I said, if I go to Pakistan, I look like them, I talk like them. And if the country open up, what rationale the army will have to have power? After all, it's only 75 years, 78 years that the two countries separated. So, in short, I would say India-China relations are based upon cooperation, competition, and caution. Cooperation is there, etc. As I mentioned to you, that the trade is going on. Trade is increasing. Trade is not decreasing. But again, about 5 years ago, 2020, Chinese again attacked India in the northern part. The fight didn't last for a long time. It was not serious. But it was, well, about 20 Indians were killed there. When they got together and negotiated, so settled down for some. Is this a permanent solution, people? No. They'll fight again. But limit it. Limit the fight. Anyway, but the question of balance of power in Asia is there. China wants to control all of Asia and the rest of the world. So that's why India's relation with the USA, Japan, Australia are very, very important. India and other countries want to keep Asia open and the rest of the world. The only way they can open is that no single country should control. Now, USA has been there. It is still there. It is a major power. It's an overwhelming power in Asia, economically and militarily. But it is not coercing people to follow USA. USA wants, again, they want to keep it open for trade and trade relations. Everybody benefits. After Second World War, the USA opened its door to Japan, Korea, Vietnam afterward, and Taiwan. Taiwan was a small backward island. Now it's one of the richest countries. What happened? The West and the USA opened their doors and trade with us. USA let them build cars and compete. There was a time American cars were dominant. Now they compete. So this policy of openness, fair, for example, Taiwan is probably one of the biggest semiconductor manufacturer in the world. So this is how, you have to see that how there's a commonality between what USA thinks, what India thinks. Keep it open. Don't close it. Technology should be open. The system should be open. Interoperable, as they say. As I mentioned to you, how China is trying to encircle India. They are building ports in Pakistan and also in Sri Lanka. And then they gave it to BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, cheap loans to many countries, and they can't pay back. So this is called debt trap diplomacy. They're trapping people in diplomacy. So that's one reason that India and Western countries get together to provide alternative to other countries. So we are talking about China, the West, and India. You will see as I continue discussing with you, somehow without forming a proper alliance with the West, India and the West are allies, informal allies. Oh, yeah, still. The cooperation and coexistence. And of course, then I talked about the trade, which is increasing. India is not going to stop the trade between China and India, but they have become very cautious. They have banned some Chinese apps which they could use for spying on India. Not only TikTok, but many other apps there. And they don't allow certain technologies to come to India. For example, there's a major company in China called Huawei. And they are trying to, dominate technology everywhere. So India refused to allow them to operate there. So all American companies, they work in India. Think of Microsoft and Google and other major companies. They work there. They work together with Indians, but not very careful about China. Very careful. Not shutting the door totally, not totally shuttering the door. Keep it ajar, open. You don't know. So that brings me to now India and the West. As I mentioned, you give the background that how India and China are working together, fighting together, arguing together. But it is in the context of the West. If the West, America, doesn't support India, it will become very difficult for India to compete with China at present in the larger country. And USA also needs India in order to have a kind of alliance with Japan and Australia. And Taiwan, of course, is informal because it's not an independent country, to work together. So they have formed a kind of grouping, not alliance, and they're not allies, called Quad, Quadrilateral Alliance, consisting of India, USA, Japan, and Australia. They share knowledge. They try to make their system inoperable. They share intelligence. And then India and USA have a special relationship. Under this special defense relationship, India and USA every year hold military exercises in the Himalayas, near the China's border. Every year, they hold naval and air force exercises in the Malabar region of India, which is in the western coast. In these exercises, other countries also join, including Japan, Australia, and New Zealand, other countries. So every year when these different military systems work together, they become inoperable in the sense that if in the future occasion arises and USA has to use Indian bases, Indian facilities, it should not be very difficult. They should fit into. And this is every year. There was a time when it was unthinkable that India would buy weapons from US. Now they not only buy advanced weapons, but also they jointly manufacture weapons in India. As of today, India has bought $20 billion of military equipment from USA and the West. India also buys from Israel, by the way. Israel and India are very good friends. And India also buys weapons from Russia, even today. So that's one reason Americans have been rather apprehensive about India. But they're looking at the totality of our relationship. USA, well, has kept quiet about India buying weapons from Russia because India has been buying weapons from Russia for a very long time, which may not be very good in the long run because systems sometimes don't work very well together, the Russian and American. So they're thinking about it. India would rather make weapons on their own, and they're trying. But you see, making modern weapons is very expensive. Again, the balance comes, how much money you spend on economic development, how much money you spend on other things. Let me, oh, this is a map of India by, seen it, There are 36 states, 28 plus 8. And the major party, the party of Narendra Modi, controls only 28 states, not all 19 states. So it's not, India is not ruled by one party. Every state has kind of, mixed government everywhere.
Is it?
Indians speak through two ways. There are two ways of Indians protesting. One is through the media, which is plenty, but not the individual. But mostly Indians speak through protests. Every now and then you'll find Indians protesting, and people listen. Now, New Delhi may not listen, but other states, when people agitate, the government listens. So this is a different kind of democracy. Normally, we are used to a kind of democracy in the USA and the West, where everything is done through the media. Free speech, true. But there are other ways of protest. When people go on fast, they hold large assemblies in protest. They don't move, they stay there. For example, a few years ago, the farmers in Punjab province, and they went on protest. They struck the whole northern India with absence of working. Why? Because the prices which the federal government had given them for their procurement. What is procurement? Government of India procures surplus food from farmers, so the prices remain up. And they said these prices are too low. Eventually, the government agreed. So, although probably it was not a very good thing because a lot of things were lost. But the point I'm making, you'll find people protesting everywhere in India. Small, big, women, men, etc.
Can you explain the 8 union territories as opposed to states? What's the difference?
The states follow the same pattern. It's a good question. First of all, let me tell you, India is a federal parliamentary system.
As a constitution?
Yes, parliamentary, it follows the UK parliament. Parliament is supreme in India. Not in the USA, we have three co-equal parties in power. The the Congress and the Supreme Court and the President. They're equal in power.
Really?
Yes. According to the Constitution. I understand you. They're co-equal power. Co-equal in power. There was time. But in India, no, there's no pretension. The parliament is supreme. And the parliament appoints the prime minister, the majority party. The same pattern you'll find in all the states. The president is a nominal head. Let me show the president today. This is India's president. I want you to think about this woman. She comes from the lowest of lowest family in India, the tribal one. Right?
Those caste
Below that,
below
there's the tribal people. She's from there. What India did in the beginning was to have a special provision for these people. Number of seats were given to them. They got preference in school and colleges, in jobs also. And she had free education too. She was a school teacher. And now she's the president, and she'll be there for 5 years. Every 5 years, president changing. Now, the reason I showed you that for a long time, India has been making effort to uplift people from the bottom up and up. But it's a huge population. The intentions are good. The constitutionally, they are very safe. But when you look at the real life, sometimes injustice is done to them. I showed you this. To answer your question about 38 states, yeah? 36 states, 28 states they are replica of the federal central government. That they instead of parliament, they have assemblies. Instead of president, they have a governor. But they follow the same pattern. Most of the states in India, they have mixed government, not one party, mixed government. When 2-3 parties join together to form a government, they compromise. So this is very essential part of democracy in India. Compromise. But when you read papers in the US and abroad, they say, oh, India is authoritarian. India is an authoritarian society. There's no doubt about it. But in spite of that, democracy does work. Compromise. So to answer your question still, 28 states have the same pattern of political pattern as the central government. 8 states are union territories. They have also, depending on the territory, they have also legislative system where the head of the state is a lieutenant governor appointed by the president of India. Less freedom than the states. So India is a mixture of semi-authoritarian, authoritarian, etc. Also, all the states are not equally powerful. Why? If you are in Kashmir, because of the terrorism, there's less freedom there than if you go to Kerala or Tamil Nadu, other places where you find the chief minister, the equivalent of governor, are very powerful. They don't care for federal government. They defy it. In West Bengal, the chief minister, governor is a woman, a fiery woman, powerful woman, very powerful. Mamata Banerjee. She is almost independent. But depends upon the state. If you go to western state, Gujarat, where the prime minister comes from, that is the same party as the central government. So you'll find they coordinate very well. So the point I'm making is freedom in India is variable, varies from state to state. Not constitutionally, in practice. Yeah. So 28 states have the same pattern as the federal government, but other 8 states have, union territory. In Western India, there are 2 towns. They are small town, independent. Not independent, but union territory. There's a very small state in South India, Pondicherry. This was a French colony long ago. So it became part of India. And then now it is small, it's a one beautiful town. People speak French there also. But it is, it's a union territory. And they're very happy.
Portuguese also?
They speak
Goa.
the Portuguese that's spoken in Goa.
Goa.
They still, but by the way, you mentioned Goa. Goa is a beautiful state. My son went last year there on a vacation, and he called me. He said, "Dad, there are Russian signs here everywhere, and there are Hebrew signs there. 2 communities, Jews and Russian people love that state. They go there every time for vacation." By the way, I mentioned. Yes, please.
No, go ahead. Finish your sentence.
No, it's all right.
I wonder how and why the state boundaries were established. Was that left over from the British influence? For example, Rajasthan and Gujarat are very, very
Rajas.
different
Yeah.
in the West.
That's a very interesting question, and I should have answered it before. Anticipated question. India has many languages. In the 60s, there was a big agitation in India. Indians wanted states based upon their own religion, own language, not religion. So after long struggle, India agreed to redesign the whole country politically in terms of language.
That's
So
interesting.
Gujarat is a separate language. Bengali is a separate language. Southern language, all these 16 major languages. But there are other smaller sets of languages also. So if you go to India, you people understand. One thing India did, and this explains to you why India is part of the West, culturally, politically. I want you to understand this. India borrowed political system from the West. The Constitution is a blend of the US Constitution and UK Parliament system. This we have to keep it. And secondly, one thing remarkable they did was Indians decided not to give up English language. And today, you go to India, any part of India, you go to Gujarat, other place. If you speak English, they will understand you. But if you speak other languages, they'll understand you. Because during the last 75 years, people have been migrating, north and south, south and north. They're all mixed up. Mumbai. If you go to Mumbai, all the languages are spoken there. It's a wonderful city. Of course, it's a financial capital of India. It's also capital of Indian movie industry. So when you're outside India, you'll find it. How do these people get together? They get very well. And also, by the way, you asked me the language. Every state has its own different, unique cuisine. What you eat in West Bengal is different from what you would eat in Kerala, the southern part of southern state. Different, altogether different. In the north, different. Mostly people think that Indians are vegetarian. That's a misnomer. True, but 1/3 people are vegetarian, 2/3 are not. And they eat all kind of meat, anyway, culturally speaking. So we'll come back to ask the question you have.
And did the official language is English? Is that
Official
because of the
language-
British?
It's Hindi and English both.
Hindi.
Yeah. Hindi.
The government is in both languages?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do work in both languages. And about 48% people speak Hindi there, which comes to about in 1.4 billion people, and more than 600 million people speak Hindi. So Hindi is very widely spoken there.
And Gandhi's influence was for the whole country? And
Yes.
how did he ever relate to such a diverse
Yeah.
country?
What he did was, he accepted the minimum common everywhere in India. He started wearing clothes which the most humble people in India would wear. That's one thing. Then he started eating simple food which poor people eat.
Yep. Okay.
Then he started going to places where very poor people, the downtrodden, the lower class people, he would live with them. The woman you saw this, she belongs to that community. And Gandhi would live in their community, eat with them. He was an extraordinary human being. I mean, the kind of a person you rarely come across. So he belongs to the long tradition of Indians from Buddha, Jaina, other people, saints. There are so many saints in India also. Yeah. So India has, of course, Indians are very violent people. Get very angry easily. But also they have this other kind of trait, non-violence. Both are things are there. Not a perfect society again. Thank you for asking. Any other question about that? Linguistic, yes.
Well, you're telling us of the diversity of these languages and cultures, but there is a central government in New Delhi and a parliament that comes from all those people.
All of it.
And they select the prime minister.
The parliament elects the prime minister.
He's much more important than the president.
Yes. The president is important because in crisis, she or he takes over. And then next election is held. Or if a state is in trouble, any state, one of 28 states, and then she will, under the advice of the prime minister, impose central government rule for some time until they elect a new government. So very different from American system. It works all right.
When we're trying to understand all of India, we pay attention to the prime minister.
Yes.
Nehru, for instance, was an amazing man.
Yeah.
Now we have a prime minister we don't understand.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for us to understand India, I think, because of him.
Because of him, because he also, surprising, he's a world traveler. He goes everywhere, talks to everybody. And he is mostly what you are saying is, he is a Hindu. In India, D is pronounced as the, so a Hindu nationalist.
Yeah.
Which surprisingly, interesting you, until the first two elections, his party had majority. Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, had in the parliament. In the recent election, his party lost the majority. And then it is a coalition government now. Indians don't forgive. Indian voters don't forgive politicians. Believe me, you can't buy them. Although he has been spending a lot of money. Why they were angry? Because COVID happened, other things happened, mismanagement. So he lost majority. He is now working with other two partners to have a majority in the parliament. So this trend, if you look at the history of India after independence, only in the beginning when Nehru was there, the Congress party had majority. Afterward, coalition government mixed them. And that is what strengthens democracy. During coalition government, India does very well. Anyway, so now the question is the party has begun to realize that in order to grow economically strong, you can't leave people alone, some people alone. And there are 200 million Muslims there. And they're very smart people. You can't ignore them. Surprisingly, when you go to the south of India, southern part of India, there's not much hostility against Muslims. The southern part, they're more open-minded than in northern. So it is not the same country. It's the same country, but what should I, shades of, not shades of gray, but
Well,
Yes,
I
please.
was,
she first, yeah.
Okay. Does India have a concern too about election interference and the use of technology for misinformation, since they are dealing with Russia and China like
Yeah.
we are doing here?
Yeah.
And here would worry about that. Is
Yeah,
there also a worry in India about that? Or
They worry. They worry. A lot of misinformation is there. But the fact that there are so many languages, it's difficult for any other country to penetrate the Indian mind.
But
Difficult.
with artificial intelligence,
Artificial intelligence, yes,
it's
it can
very
translate.
difficult before. Now
don't
it's much
understand.
easier.
It must
to achieve.
it's simultaneous translation. I think last time I showed you that how you can translate, speak in Portuguese. That is there. But Indians are very, very advanced in IT, and they know how to fight back. India and USA, other countries work together. Misinformation, disinformation. They're very much aware of it. Even then, as I mentioned, China follows what you call the policy of gray zone. They would rather sabotage you than fight you. Right? But once you know that the enemy is there, the enemy is it is cyber enemy, then you can fight. So Indians know how to fight. They know it. After all, India was the first country that gave ID to every Indian. Now almost 99% Indians have ID. Because the government, when government wants to send money to people, poor people, etc., farmers, etc., those who need money, it is sent directly to their banks. And the voting, of course, everybody in India, everybody has a kind of profile. So far, election have been held very fairly open, in spite of, as you said, interference from outside. But that said, during the time of Nehru, Communist Party of India, there were two parties, Marxist and Leninist, one favoring Russia, Soviet Union, other favoring China. At that time, the Chinese and the Soviet Union used Communist Party in India to influence their decision. But these two parties never received any prominence all over the country, except in the southern state of Kerala, where communists ruled for a long time, and in West Bengal. But now they're gone. Openness. Nehru, at that time, never banned any party. They say banning creates a problem. Yes, please. Sir.
So I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, I mean, I was, yes, I remember you.
What's the current status or influence of the caste system in India on its continued evolution?
The caste system has become modified. People marry each other. But that said, Indians will never give up their caste. Never.
So what happened to the untouchables?
She's untouchable. The woman I showed you, she was untouchable.
Yeah.
And India made extraordinary efforts to lift these people, especially women. Gandhi was absolutely pro-women. He said, if women don't rise, India won't rise. So he made efforts to uplift women. So from the very beginning, Indians have been emphasizing the education of women. I remember long ago when India became independent. My family, we have 4 boys, 1 girl, the sister, the youngest. So when my sister finished her high school and was going to college, My mother said, boys, look, your sister will have better education than any of you. And says, she gave her all the money, wherever you go. She told my sister, go to the best school, you get admission, we'll pay. So that attitude was not only one woman, one family, but everywhere. One thing happened after independence. Women began to go to school and college. It's still a very imperfect gender society now. Women are not still treated very well in India, believe me. Especially in villages, but in the towns, cities, no. There are same crimes there as we have here. That is part of the.
How did Indira Gandhi, how did she become the head of state?
Head of the government. She was the daughter of.
Yeah.
After Nehru, when he died, Lal Bahadur Shastri became prime minister. But he died after, I think, 4 years. Then there was a very interesting question about intrigues in India, political intrigue. The Congress party, the big wigs, all the big parties got together. They said, let's select a person who is a puppet,
Of course.
who listens to us. And they said, let's select this dumb woman. Oh God, really, that's the exact one. People in the north and south, all the politicians got together and select. Once Indira Gandhi came to power, the first thing she did was to mow them down.
Yay.
If you happen to read my book, there's a special chapter on her. She remade India. She broke up Pakistan. At that time, Henry Kissinger and Nixon were in the White House. Who some people call evil genius. They used to call her bad names.
Of course they did.
Well, anyway, the B word, this and F word, this and that. And she stood against them. And then when they opposed India, when India was helping Bangladesh to become independent, she went to Russia, took Russia's help, and Soviet Union help. That's why I said, keep the door open, you don't know. You might need somebody else's help. This time the Soviet Union came.
Rain, would this be a good time for a break?
This time, yeah. I want to show you a clip. I would like to show you a clip. It's a beautiful dance. Would you like to see now or later?
Now,
Let me
Sure.
show
If you can do it.
I'm trying. This is a clip.
Massive dance.
Yeah.
The Indian accent to me has always been the most
See.
emphasis. It is the
I'll go
cultural
on.
history rather than business. Chinese for easy.
Namah Shivaya.
Really scary, we know. But then
Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Sari ga ma ga ri sa ga pa ri sa ni pa ga ri sa ri ga ri sa ni pa ga ri sa ni ta ta ta. Dim 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 ta di di dim.
I know, you know, I really. That's
So I.
Thank
so
you very
I-
much.
Okay, John, can you help me with the doors?
Yes, there it is.
What
What
about
about
this
this?
Hey, let's get back to work.
No.
Yes.
Narain, you're up.
Okay, yes.
And zooming.
Yes. So you gotta keep your tech skill.
Jim, are we supposed to evaluate these whole class? What are you gonna tell us about that?
Oh, we're gonna evaluate Jim and John. That's right.
Thank you, welcome back. Now, want to
Jim,
talk about.
Can you unmute the room? Because they won't be able to hear on Zoom.
Unmute.
He's unmuted, I think.
Is it unmuted?
Are you unmuted, Zoom? Hello, Zoom. Being pretty quiet.
Yes, we are unmuted. This is B. Thayer.
Thank you. Mary.
Loud and
Appreciate
clear.
it.
Right.
Talking about US-India relationship changed substantially and during 2005 and 2008. That was the time when George W. Bush was the president.
Mhm.
He took an extraordinary step and visited India and established a new kind of relationship and entered into nuclear agreement with India. Although India was not member of that non-proliferation treaty, he ignored it and accepted India into this community. So did Europe also. That was a big turning point in the two-country relationship, and trust began to build. So, in spite of the fact that India was a nuclear power, it has nuclear weapons today. So has Pakistan, so has China. India developed nuclear weapons because of the past wars between India and Pakistan. They don't want to have dominant nuclear presence in the subcontinent. So that was the reason. Ideally, some of you think there should be no weapons, nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons and Gandhiism do not go together. But in practical world, as I mentioned to you, 1962, when China invaded India, India had no choice but to turn to USA to ask for arms. What do? I want to tell you something interesting about Mahatma Gandhi. And this will explain to you why India has this dual attitude, violence, non-violence. A woman in India, a young woman asked Gandhi, when he was the leader at that time. He said, Mahatma means great soul. This is what they used to call Gandhi. What should I do if a man comes and tries to rape me? I have to understand the question. What the woman said, what should I do when a man tries to rape me? Gandhi kept quiet for some time. He said, take out your arms and nails. Take out his eyes.
Non-violence.
I mean, non-violence to some extent, but when a woman is attacked, what do? Do what you can. So violence is, by the way, this is a remarkable thing. India's book, two famous books. India's culture is based upon two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. They are both war books. And we should have more time to talk about this thing, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Based upon what? In Mahabharata, Krishna told his protege, Arjuna, fight. Because if you don't fight, it will be chaos. Violence becomes necessary when you find, a state of affair when there's no morality. To establish morality again, you have to fight sometime. Well, you see, that is of course, senseless violence. And Ramayana I mean, Rama was the son of a king, and he, because of political intrigues in the family, he was exiled and he left for 14 years. On the way to the south, his wife was kidnapped.
Hmm.
And what did he do? He raised an army and invaded now what is called Sri Lanka.
Hmm.
The king was there. And the story is long. And fought a battle, got his wife back and came back to India. So if you have to fight, sometime fight. You can't allow people to hurt you. So that is the basic philosophy. So Gandhi also said that non-violence should be peaceful. But extreme circumstances, when you are attacked, don't sit quietly and say, hit me again. The idea of the other cheek works sometime. But you can't ask a rapist, okay, go ahead, No, hit back. It's better to die and than give up. What does that? Did I answer your question? I mean, this is a non-violence, violence, and etc. Women sometimes fight. Women do fight. Women fight very well, very badly. If you look at the history of India, women fighters have been there. They rode horses and fought battles. There have been many in the past women who were rulers of India. Women, Muslim, and Indian, Hindu, everywhere. So this is the background. So I'm coming back to this. We talk, yes.
You're prompting this question. Are marriages still arranged in India?
Marriage is mine was arranged marriage. This is what happened. My family and my wife's family knew each other very well. So they used to meet each other, family and family. And then when she was ready, I was ready, and they said, well, that's nice. So got married. So I began to love my wife after marriage.
I've had many Indians tell me the same thing, by the way. Yes.
You begin to love a person in the course of time. Also, you can fall in love with a person. And that also works, but sometimes doesn't work. In India also, arranged marriages don't work sometimes. Now, after India became independent, now people divorce, women divorce. Earlier, women tolerated tyranny at home. Now they don't.
That's
They
called
walk
an
out.
arranged marriage.
Yeah.
That's an arranged marriage. When
Arranged
you
marriage also
divorce.
people walk out. Say my sister-in-law, she got married and didn't get along with her husband and divorced her. And then has done very well. Her son she has one son in Singapore, a big manager. She says, I'm not going to stay with you. Right? So there are many women who do it. Things are changing, not perfect. Women in India, there's no exact gender equality. Right? But now they are, for example, Muslim women, they are treated very different. In Islam, just in India, a man wanted to divorce his wife, Muslim man, and he would say, I divorce you. Third time in the presence of a religious cleric, the woman must divorce. Go, wherever you want to go. But now you're talking about Narendra Modi. When he came to power, he said, this is wrong. The Muslims said, this is our religious tradition. He said, no. Now that's gone now. Now it's a regular thing. That means if you want divorce, have a settlement and you have to pay alimony, whatever it is. Yeah. And I want to talk about George W. Bush, but I'm going to answer the question. You talk about how Modi governs. Just let me finish it because it's important. So yeah.
I just have one question.
in cities like Mumbai, for example, the banking and whatever, what percentage of the women work outside their homes?
In Mumbai,
Yeah.
very large number of women work there because education level is very high. Now, it's difficult to say how much, but I would say about more than 50% women work. But also, there's a working class in India, and they're mostly women.
Huh.
Every family who can, they hire domestic help.
Right.
And domestic help is mostly women in India. And they are treated now very well because they're organized. They're organized.
Are they educated at the same level as the men, or is there still a difference?
Education is very high, not the same level. Not the same level. But 75% women are educated.
Free,
Yeah.
free
In some
education.
states, yeah. In some states in West Bengal, Kerala, about 95% women are educated. The states are very different. If you go to Kerala, the southern state, and they are very different, different sense. People are more educated there. And in the next state, Tamil Nadu. But if you go to Chhattisgarh, the woman I showed you, very bad, very bad. So it's a very uneven country. And I answered your question. No, I didn't answer your question. I'm going to talk about George W. Bush. He took a very bold step of going to India and entering into a nuclear agreement with India, under which USA and West upward, Western Europe, they also signed agreement with India. They would let India develop nuclear energy for peaceful purpose. And of course, India has been using that technology for establishing nuclear plants and all that. So far, nuclear atomic bombs are concerned, India has been making them. What do? Suppose India doesn't have nuclear weapon and China says, look, we are going to destroy it. So the balance of terror, right? As we use the term in US, that has stopped both the countries from doing extraordinary bad things. The relations between India and China are frozen. They become hostile once in a while, but again become frozen. So as I said, you don't know in the future, technology might change. As you see between Russia and Ukraine, it is still an old-fashioned war. They have not threatened to, Russia did threaten to use weapons, atomic nuclear weapon, but not. Because they know if they use it, then of course the West will also use it. So the balance of terror is there. So atomic weapons do serve a purpose if they are under control. It's a difficult thing. I don't think I've answered your question very, very satisfactorily. Ideally, we should not have any nuclear weapon. But USA, and it has more nuclear weapon than it can be used to destroy humanity. So from that time on, India-US relation began to grow and grow from 2008 onward after George W. Bush. And then trade began to increase. India began to liberalize. It became more of a capitalist country as it is now. So trade began to increase. By the way, throughout this time I'm talking about, in the time of Nehru to today, Indians have been coming to the USA for education for a very long time. Indians have always admired Americans and the British, in spite of the fact British ruled India after a long time. They never hated India. Instead, Gandhi said, hate the British system, but not the people. He himself lived in a English family in London, studied there. And then he went to South Africa and started legal practice. So this kind of experience China never had. Never had. Indians have been always going abroad, Africa, everywhere, voluntarily or by force. Under the British, they used to go, what you call indentured labor. So, coming back to this, so since then, in the relation between India and USA, the civil nuclear deal that we have to keep in mind. This was done in spite of the fact that India never signed what they call the Non-Proliferation Treaty. The Non-Proliferation Treaty was made between 5 powers: China, USA, UK, France, Russia, to exclude other people from joining the club. Right? So, George W. Bush said, okay, let's forget the treaty, establish special relations, opened up India to nuclear development, not weapons, because there's a clause in the agreement that India will not use the material got from Western countries for nuclear weapons, but for peaceful purpose. So that began to build trust between India and the US. And the trust has been going on, going up and up gradually. But at the same time, I mentioned to you, the military exercises which India and USA do every year to make their system inoperable, mesh with each other. So India is a member of Quad, Quadrilateral Agreement with Japan, Australia, US and all that. Not military alliance. But when you play together, and then it becomes easy to, when the time comes, come together and fight together. India will never say that we will put our boots on the ground, but you don't know if the systems are compatible. In 1962, when John F. Kennedy helped India, the systems were not compatible. Indian airports were not so good as to allow American airplanes to land safely. But now it is all one, more compatible. Technologically also, the technical IT system India and USA have, USA, India, Western, Europe, Japan, it is the same. Good or bad, these five, six big tech companies dominate the world. And India is a part of that growth. All these top tech companies in the USA, they have massive offices in India. Thousand people working together. They are not. Here's an example. I have a niece, my wife's niece actually, Gujarat. And she works with American company. Poor girl works late at night. When it's nighttime there, it's daytime in America. So they work together. Well, but you see, not always. There are a lot of Indians who work for American companies. It's virtual environment. So India can do because India is highly developed in tech area. And I'm going to, anyway, I don't want to miss the question you asked me. It's a very important question. Yeah. Okay, by the way, this is how India, we haven't talked about the global south. See, this is how India and USA cooperate. During COVID-19, for example, India is one of the biggest manufacturer of vaccines. And India There's an institute in Pune, near Mumbai. And they manufacture vaccines of all kinds. And they got into this relationship with Western companies to manufacture vaccines. And they distributed more than 2 billion vaccines at that time. That is the kind of cooperation India gives to the global south with the help of US and all that. This kind of cooperation was not available with China. You know, they say COVID-19 began in China, with China's lab, but we still don't know. They never cooperated. They never opened up. But India is, cooperated with the rest of the world. That's what we have to keep in mind. So it's more like development of partnership with the global south. So this, I mentioned BRICS, still India trades with both sides, and BRICS I mentioned is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Shanghai cooperation, and they meet together, discuss issues. It's not a military alliance. India has free trade agreement with Japan, UK, etc. Australia negotiating with EU. And of course, as you know, India and USA are trying to negotiate some kind of agreement today under this tariff, issue which President Trump has raised. That will take some time, but things will settle. By the way, in the first term of Trump, India and USA had good relationship. In fact, Trump visited India in his first term. Many of us have ambiguous feeling about Trump, but he's the president, he's power, right? And he can be checkmated, and he is being checked. You will see how Americans resist him, fight him. But how he might succeed somewhere, fail somewhere. But he is not he's very powerful, not a dictator. And that brings me to the question you raised about Narendra Modi. He is the Prime Minister of India. How does it work? His party is called Bharatiya Janata Party. It's a Hindu nationalist party. In the first 2 terms, it was almost extremist party. But once they lost the election, this time it had to become partner, coalition government. They changed their tone. It is much more modest now than used to be. And you will see, as I mentioned, it is impossible for India to grow economically if they ignore a large population consisting of the Muslims. Muslims in India are very smart. They're businessmen, intellectual. You can't ignore them. Yes.
When you say Hindu nationalist, do you mean he wants to partition India, or you mean he wants to impose Hindu on everybody?
No, he doesn't impose. He believes that, first of all, he believes the Hindu is an ancient civilization. Under the British rule, those aspects of Indian civilization were suppressed. Muslims ruled over India for a long time. Do you know that? Muslims ruled over India for a very long, hundreds of years. The Mughals were Muslims. Very broad Muslims. So India has this history. So he believes that the kind of secularism which Jawaharlal Nehru had is not desirable for India, according to him, because Hindu ethos should be dominant. Not everybody agrees. Not all Indians agree with it. People in the South don't agree with it. People in the West, Bengal, don't agree with it. So there's a contest going on, kind of between these two sides. So I believe India is reaching a stage when, because of political pressures from the bottom, it will become once again, a more secular and open society. But Hindu, about 80% people are Hindus there. Muslims are only 13%. Look at the Christian population in India. They are not as badly treated as other minorities. In fact, Christians have a dominant intellectual position in India. Why? Because they run some of the best schools in India, colleges in India. Most prestigious schools, colleges in India were started by missionaries and taken over by Indians. And they hold on their own, especially in the South. In southern state of Kerala, the large Christian population. So to say, yes, it is, if you talk to Muslims, they do feel sometimes discriminated. But if you ask a Muslim in India, what would you go? Where will you go? If you have choice between a Muslim country, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, where will you go? They will stay in India. In spite of all the, apparent discrimination, they manage. I was in Gujarat state where Prime Minister comes from, and I had a lot of Muslim friends there, large population. And normally anybody bothered. But once in 5 years, there used to be riots between Hindus and Muslims. They will last for a couple of months, normally. So this kind of relationship, mutual animosity, then coming down, has been there for even before the British were there. So it's difficult to say, but I want to answer your question. I'm not forgotten. How does Modi rule? He rules because his party is a coalition party with other party, and he has a majority, and he has a substantial majority with his coalition. So most of the things he can done. For example, Kashmir was earlier had a special status, which was notional only an idea, not real. And his party, the parliament, not he. Because his party has a majority in parliament, so he gets things done. It seems to you and me and other people, he's being authoritarian. But he does it with the approval of the parliament. As I mentioned to you, the Muslim marriage rule, divorce, was done, approval, it was not executive order. The parliament approved it, and Muslim women were very happy. Why would Muslim women say, well, she should be deprived of her property? Now she's being treated as good as Hindu women, which not to say that is good, they still have to improve them. They are planning to go for a uniform civil code in which all Indians will be treated equally, all Indians. At present, they are not. A minority community can claim special, rules and regulations. They say, this is our religion. But this will take some time. So, this is how Narendra Modi rules. His party has a majority. He persuades the party and the parliament. They vote in favor. But not all the states are ruled by his party. As I mentioned, out of 28 states, another 8 states, about 19 states are with his party. And also, if you go to states, for example, Mumbai is a coalition government. His party, other party. Mumbai is so big, the Maharashtra state, the state. It is the richest state in India, Maharashtra. Technology and capital, education, everything. Everybody wants to go there. Right? If you go to Mumbai, you'll find a representation of India, totally. So these people, although they are part of the central government, same party, but they work independently. So when we look at India, we believe one man is ruling. It is not true. It's not true. It appears to be like that. The parliamentary system, in the UK also, the parliament dominates. As I mentioned, the Supreme Court of in UK is not over the Parliament. Parliament can pass a law that will nullify the ruling of the Supreme Court. Not in the US. Yes, please.
How does the tax system works?
How does-
Do the tax system, do individuals pay taxes like we do here to the state and to the central government? Or what is the proportion? You say there are different parties, different rules, but they need money, right? To implement this. How do the tax work in India? And how much taxes do citizens pay to the government?
The taxes.
Yeah, the taxes.
The taxes, now they have a coordinated system of tax gathering all over India. A central body collects taxes from all the states, etc., then redistributes under some a formula, which is acceptable to all. The redistribution of money is done collectively, not by the center. Right? All the states have representatives. They have made rules and regulation. How much money will go to states? And then states have their own local taxes also.
So what it is, it's a live stream link. Every week there's a different link and it's the live stream and it's also the recording. It'll end up on there.
Okay, that is not something.
So
Yes.
you can watch it live, you could jump in an hour later.
Is it a question?
It's a ghost.
Okay, so the taxation system, the financial system. Okay. The financial system, of course, states have their own financial system, but the central tax, which collects most of the money, taxing all over the country, that is collected by one body now, which is represented by all the states, and then the money collected is distributed according to a formula. So this is how. In the USA, of course, we all pay taxes to both state and federal governments. But there also it is similar thing. But so far, the system has worked very well. The efficiency has increased. Taxes have increased. They have eliminated the middle people who used to collect taxes and put in their own pockets. Now, no system is perfect, but so every now and then, I think after every 5 years, they look at the system again and redo it. As I mentioned, the states are very, very vocal in India. They are very active. They protest. No state in India will, if they perceive some injustice is being done, they will protest, they'll go to the Supreme Court. The wonderful thing about India is the Supreme Court, although is not equal to the Parliament, but you can go to the Supreme Court of India and raise a question. Public interest litigation. Anybody can go and file a suit against anybody, the state or central federal government, about an issue. Yeah. And that of course slows down the system. The judicial system in India is not perfect. Backlogs and all that, and corruption, this is everywhere.
We've been told that the prime minister is motivated by being in power and reelected. And that's why he must play to the Hindus.
Yeah.
There's a billion of them or more, perhaps, as compared to the Muslims. So he plays to the Hindus in Kashmir or some other issues like that.
That is true. But Hindus don't listen to him.
Oh, they don't.
No. They do listen to him sometimes, but not always. And he knows it. Listen to you. People in the southern states, they're not in favor of his party. They're totally opposed. And then for a long time in one state, Tamil Nadu, it is the local party that has ruled. But they're trying to get into what you call coalition, cooperation with other countries, sharing power.
I think the term that I would apply to all of this is pragmatism.
Pragmatism. You are the right person.
Yeah.
In India, nothing works unless people compromise. In spite of that, sometimes you'll find atrocities, cruelties being committed against Muslims. Agree? But it's not always. It's there sometimes. but mostly people get together. There are two questions there.
Just quickly, well, you mentioned India is the fourth largest economy in the world, GNP
Today,
total.
yes.
But I remember its per capita income is like the worst in the world.
The per capita, yeah, here.
Can that be,
It looks like that. There's another term called purchasing power equality. Purchasing power. How much you spend on a cup of coffee in the USA?
More than in India.
No, you see, oh, yes. See, okay, let's take a restaurant like a Pine Restaurant in USA. And I think for dinner, you might, if you have 4 or 5 people, it will cost about $200, $300.
Well, what is the coffee cost of the Pine?
I think,
A lot.
yeah. But the same cup of coffee in India will cost you a rupee. 80 rupees make $1. So to answer your
wow.
question, if you turn Indian economy per capita income in terms of purchasing power parity, then you go to India, you find Indians are doing very well. In terms of GDP, it is about $14 trillion. To give you an idea how big is $14 trillion. $14 trillion, US GDP is about more than $30 trillion. That gives you an idea. But if you go to think about what can a person buy with $5 in India, a lot. You $5 come to 400 rupees. You could have some breakfast in an ordinary restaurant. I mean, lunch. You could have lunch. Yes. There you go. Education. Somebody asked about question education. Yeah. Education is very, very, very inexpensive. Education is inexpensive. Most of the people get almost free education.
Through where? Through college?
No, the government. Most of the institutions are run by the state government.
How many years?
It is a 4 years, same thing. 12 years at school, 4 years in college, 2 years. The system is mostly British system.
Free?
Mostly free. Yeah. And some communities get free education. The women there. A lot of women, yes.
You describe the states as being formed on linguistic patterns, but right now, how homogeneous are there? Are there some that are more Hindu and others more Muslim, or are they all equally heterogeneous? Some get better education than others.
Education is national, state system, national system, so everybody gets the same education.
Yeah, but it's a quality of how much money you put into the state in the individual area, because some areas get better education than others.
Yes, some universities are, some of the top universities, they compare with the global universities, especially in technology.
Yeah.
They are run by federal government.
Okay.
And they educate, admission is based upon national competition. National competition.
Yeah.
A person from the south and north will sit in the same examination. All medical schools in India, they have uniform entrance examination. No discrimination, men, women, etc. And there are private colleges, they run very well, but you have to pay fees.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And
One question. We talked about IT.
Yeah.
How about medical training? Because I think of there being many Indian doctors.
Yeah.
Are they educated someplace, particular in India?
Yes, that's what I want to show you. Thank you for asking. Indians.
Every 10th doctor is in India.
Indians. Yeah. Education of Indians in India, medical education is very high. And then when they come to USA, they have to redo residency here again. And then become as good as American. My son is a doctor here, ophthalmologist, eye surgeon. He goes to India.
He is, by the way, a remarkable man. My husband goes to him. He's fantastic. He's a really lovely human being.
Yes. I'm proud of him.
Yes. Terrific.
He goes to India, Bhutan, Ethiopia every year to train doctors. When I ask him, how are the doctors there? He said, Dad, Indian doctors are as good as American doctors, and they're much cheaper. The system, the health system, the best is as good as anywhere else in the world. And that's why you find a lot of Arab people doing it. Yeah. For your dentures, etc., for your anything, it's much cheaper there than here. And the doctors are paid well, but not as paid well as here. What other question? We have still time. And I want to talk about this. There are Indians everywhere. Silicon Valley, Ivy research lab, corporate America. Every 10 doctor is an Indian in the world. Every 10 doctors. They are not only in the cities, small towns. I was in Kentucky for 5 years. I was professor. In the Moorhead, small town. And there I found 2 doctors, Indian doctors. There are 34,000 nurses, Indian nurses. So this is a state. I mean, they come from India, and education good. That's why they come here. And because the language is common, so they fit very well after some time. So the system is British. Here's an example. We have still time. When I was studying in India, see, I and other people had to take a final examination, sitting in the class like this. And we have to write essays there and then. Without notes, there were no computer at that time. Right. So this is a British system. Write long essays there. Prepare at home. The professor will not give you prompts. Here we give prompts to students, do this, do this. Here we ask to write a research paper at home. And we value it very much, which is very important. But not in India. India, they do it, but now they have adopted some other system from USA also. But the basic thing is understand, and when you come to the class, final examination, you are your own. You are supervised. They're supervised. See, you have time, 3 hours. Exams are 3 hours. Finish it. And then you are given. And when the exam is done, nobody will know who is who, because they give you numbers.
That's great.
This is an ideal system, because a lot of people cramp this and that. They'll complain again. This Indian system is not very creative. I agree, because when I see my grandchildren studying here, they have so much freedom, so much projects. They talk, they give talks. Even my granddaughter, she is 9, 10-year-old. She gives a talk. She's supposed to give a talk. She's asked to stand up and give a talk. My grandson also. So this is how the system is. Now the time to blend the two. When you put the two things together, now IIT guys, that's 5, 6 last institution, they work very well here. English and also quick and understand. I have a grandnephew here. He came from India. He was working in a very big company, auto company, and he joined Texas A&M University and did his master's in a new technology, the battery technology. And before he finished, he was offered a job after internship in a very big company. And so important, because nowadays you see it's difficult to get a visa and all that. His company helped him to get visa because they want him to stay. Right? And what happens, you might say, brain drain. No, Indians and Americans work together. Indians who are working there, they go back and they set up companies there. It's a two-way traffic. Nothing like this is in between China and India. China will take everything from here and develop on their own. Indians want to grow with the West. So we have 10 minutes. I want to, but any question about this?
That's one more question.
Before that, I want to the last line. Indians' population is 1.5%. They contribute 5 to 6% to US taxes. How? Because their income level is very high. Most of them, 90% are professional. Yes.
What the article we read in this, have you read this? It says in the census of 2020, 4.4 million Americans identified as Asian Indian. 30 years before that, it was 1 million. And in 30 years, it's gone up to 3.4 more million.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Why, yes. You explained it partly, but
Yeah.
tell us why.
Indians come because they started this H-1B visa system for professionals to come here and work. And most people who have come here, they come under the visa program. They're highly educated, IT guys, doctors, etc. They get this special visa for some time. And then after some time, they apply for a green card. And some of them might stay on, become citizens.
They're offered a good job here and so on. You say.
They come with good jobs. They come to the USA after getting a job there. American companies who work there, they want them to come here, work here. You see,
Just the day of.
American company, our company work there. They want to train Indians and come here. Now these companies, American companies are training people and asking them to work there because of Trump's restriction now. But the cooperation is increasing, not decreasing. And now they will come and go back. These two countries, there are several countries which work together. By the way, Israel and the USA, they work together very well. Israel, USA, Ireland, India, Australia, English-speaking world. They share their knowledge. When I say share, when Indians work there and there, they also grow there. They trigger production, intellectual growth in India also. That's how things are going in India also. It's growing at the rate of 6-7%. There's one question you asked. Did you answer it? No. Yeah.
Hopefully this is a quick cultural question, but maybe interesting. Our media headlines often confuse the word Indian. You don't know if there are articles going to be about Native American Indians or people from India. It happens often. And I'm just wondering, the world maybe should change one of the two. That's one thing. But what do the people in India now call their country? Do they still call it Bharat?
It is India, Bharat, in Hindi. Bharat.
Yeah.
It's a very ancient name. And it is named after the prince, Bharat, yes.
Okay.
From Mahabharata, etc. Yes.
So we call it India because of the Greeks from the Indus River. They called all the people around there.
I would love to talk to you how the Greeks came to India with Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
And some stayed down there. And the Greek influence on Indian culture is tremendous.
Yeah.
It changed Buddhism. Yes.
This is not the right question for this hour, but I want to know about the global South and Africa in particular. Is there any interaction with exchange students or business?
Yeah.
Or it's got a lot of potential in that country.
Global South. Earlier, we used to call them, third world countries. Now they changed the name. Third world countries is a rather annoying term. They call it now Global South. So India has a relation with the Global South is a huge geopolitical system is not one part. It's not culturally one, Africa, Asia, etc. So India from the very beginning has been having relation with these people through United Nations Assembly. For example, when Nehru was the prime minister, he established this group of 77 in the UN Assembly. And so just to give them their voice. And today, there's a good question you asked. In 2023, there was a G20 conference in India. G stands for big economy, 20 big economy. They got together. India is part of them. And India was the chairman. And Narendra Modi called the meeting there, annual meeting there. But to be fair to those people who were left behind, other people, so the Global South, before that, he called their virtual meeting and listened to them. Look, we are going to meet in Delhi for so many days. So he listened to them and incorporated their voices, concern into G2 meeting. Secondly, he did what? Remarkable. Narendra Modi invited African Union. There are 55 countries in the African Union. Now they are permanent member of G20 conference. The biggest thing. And once they are there, once a group of people, 55 countries are there, they are going to speak. So this is how they modify the dominance of the West. And that brings me to last, we have still time, right?
Well, we got a couple of minutes to close it out, so.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for coming.
My email address is. If you have any question, by all means send to me and I'll be happy to talk to you. Here, at the end is my email address.
I don't know if they can read that or not. You better read it for me.
Narain Batra at gmail.com, right? Yes. Anytime you want to call, send me a message, I'll happy to respond to you.
Narain, thank you so much.
My wife asked, can you stand for 2.5 hours and talk? I said, yeah, I don't feel it. The energy comes from you. Is that right?
I hope so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John, do you know how the feedback is going to be given this year? Is it on the global?
There is a link in the Google Drive for the evaluation, but I think the office will send you a link.
Yes, I think so.
Good. John and I are very interested every year, and we do read all the feedback that we get. Particularly, we'd be interested in some of the mechanicals. In other words, how did it work between the high flex and between here and there? And anything you have to say about that. The other thing is we always ask is that we have usually some speakers. This year we had 2 that were on Zoom. And we always ask the class, is that what you want? Do we go for the best speaker we can get wherever they happen to be? Or do you feel it's much more, much easier and whatnot to have the speaker here? So those are the kinds of things. And then anything else you want to put on, we'd appreciate it. We'll take a look at it and whatnot.
Well, it worked well last week. That was
Last
fantastic.
week was great.
Jerusalem.
It was excellent.
I think it worked pretty well with Sarwar too, but anyway, I'll leave that up to you as to how well you thought it worked. Not how I thought it worked.
Yeah, I think last week was a record in terms of time zone distance, 7 hours.
And we thought we were gonna break it last year with a fellow in Indonesia, but he said I'll either be in Jakarta or Washington. And he said it doesn't make any difference because it'll be 9 o'clock either place. And he was in Washington. And so, yeah, I think this was the record against somebody from Jerusalem.
My question to you, what makes you so interesting in these things? Why are you so interested in the world?
History, I think. And, I think back to all of the literature that we've read growing up, etc.
Well, you ask very good question, very brilliant question. It stimulates me to think, and I think I write for several newspapers also. So somehow I might borrow or steal your ideas and use them.
Please do. Both ways.
I'm grateful to you and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for taking part.
Thank you. And you, Jim, and you, John.
Thank you very much.